Welcome to the Taking a Breath podcast with Parkermayes.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Taking a Breath podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. My guest today is Neville Lucia. He's the CEO of Dale Carnegie of Central and Eastern North Carolina, and someone who I am honored to intern with this semester within Dale Carnegie. They are launching the Gen Next program, Generation Next, skills for future success for college-age students and high school students. So excited to talk a little bit more about that and all of his experience. He is actually from South Africa and has just recently moved to the US. So excited to have you here. Excited to have you on the podcast. Would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself.
I'm delighted to be here as well. To be honest with you, it's nice to meet people that are enthusiastic.
Thank you.
About learning from leaders. And I think very often you look at these phenomenal leaders, the Elon Musks of the world and the Zuckerbergs and all these wonderful individuals. And we think, but really it's everyday leaders that can add value too. I know I've learned a lot from just everyday leaders and of course from the books that I've read. So now I'm thrilled to be here and I'm really honored. I'm honored. You say you're honored. I am delighted to be here. So thanks.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, so when you initially, are thinking about moving to the US and starting the Central and Eastern North Carolina, or buying it, I guess, and then, bringing it to a thriving and flourishing business, what are those initial thoughts going through your head?
Well, we made the decision pre-COVID.
Okay.
so it was a decision that my wife and I had made to, look, we want to travel the world as a couple. We have our children for a short amount of time. I have 3 daughters, as you know.
Right.
And when the kids are out of the home, Karen and I want to travel the world. And South Africa is the most beautiful place on the planet. It's inhabited by the most amazing people. But for us to travel the world, we felt we needed to build a pension outside of South Africa. It's US based or European based pension. And because I'm really goal focused and goal oriented, we put a plan in play to say, look, if there's an opportunity, let's see if we couldn't take that. Either go to Europe or the USA. And of course, Dale Carnegie being a global franchise, it's head officed out of New York in the US. When this opportunity presented itself, we thought maybe this is the one. And we were encouraging our kids to study abroad, to come to the US and study. So yeah, it's a good fit, I think. So that's where the dream started. But of course, the hard work came in proving ourselves to the franchisor.
Right.
We sold our business to a great person that's taken over there. And of course, we're now trying to build our business in COVID times. And it's proving challenging, but it's going to be rewarding once we've turned the corner.
My goodness. And lots of challenges. We talked about from all of these things with home buying and school and all of these, right? I mean, we're just thinking stress upon stress. And it's so cool to see every day, you come to work, you're ready, your goal, you talk about a goal focus, like we're making it happen. And so it's been cool to learn from you in those times as well.
Oh, thank you. It is. The amazing thing for me is that COVID's delayed a lot of things. So
right.
We've got to put things in perspective as well. I think we would have been here 8 months ago. We had a business we took over a business in our due diligence that was certainly in its growth curve. Emily, who owned it before me, really dynamic individual, someone I really respect. And it was great to work with her. And as the transition happened and as we moved forward, of course, it became really challenging. I think where we find, I think maybe that's why I value what I do, right? I'm living and practicing what we teach every day. And I think what people often don't realize is that I think what Dale Carnegie teaches is how do we become intentional in our everyday living. And by intentional, what it means is I want to be an intentional parent to my daughters. I want to be an intentional father. I want to be an intentional business owner. I want to be all these things, intentional salesperson, intentional in all aspects of my life. And Dale Carnegie allows us to take command of that. And what happens is we complicate things. So what we're finding is by reminding ourselves what our goal is and our vision has been, by living, I guess, being forced to apply what we teach in, we're able to make these everyday interactions simpler to do, not necessarily easier to do. And I think when we hold ourselves to a higher standard, what happens is it's very easy for people to point fingers and throw suggestions or comments and stuff. So I think that becomes a challenge. So yes, we come with intention. We come to work every day, but the kids are stressed. They're dying to go to school. Karen is got these 4 walls that she's living in because we need our social security number to get our car lease going so we can buy a car. I mean, it's just been tremendously challenging, but also we're excited about what the opportunities are. America, this is the land of opportunity without a doubt. But to be honest with you, it's the people in our team, the people we've met, talking to individuals, in everyday areas, like at the malls, at the shops, at the stores. North Carolina is a great place to be.
We love having you here. We love being here. And it's funny because it's very clear just seeing your interactions with people that you do live those Dale Carnegie principles within, meeting people, remembering people's names, just checking in, we were just before we were recording, doing some connections on LinkedIn, sending those personalized videos to people. There's those little things that we can do that actually have that really big impact. And what for you, as you're basically building a network from scratch, you're meeting people from scratch, all of this stuff, what have been the big takeaways?
Well, for me, I think we all have insecurity. And I think we have to, courage is doing what you're afraid of doing, despite being fearful. So I think do the thing, just do it anyway. Face your fears and live your dreams. There's a poster I used to have of a guy on a surfboard on this big maverick wave.
Yes.
And I think we have to remind ourselves to do that, because that little seed of doubt creeps in really quickly. And I'm open to asking. I mean, you've met Doug, right? I'm going to ask Doug, Doug, is this the right approach? What are your thoughts? Is it contextually, is it Americanized enough? I don't want to unintentionally offend someone.
Right.
Our phraseologies in some ways are slightly different. So it's those little things that I'm really enjoying about working with people. So in terms of your question, I think it's about putting yourself out there, but knowing that a calculated risk is the risk that you take, because opportunities are never lost. Parker, someone else just takes them.
That's right.
So if you make a calculated risk, or you take a calculated risk and you make the decision and you act on it, the majority of people are going to support you there. And if you unintentionally offend or you do something wrong, well, make the decision again, right? Take the next calculated risk and make the decision and then do it. That, I believe, is what makes people enjoy the fruits of their labor, because they're intentional.
Wow. I love that, from navigating a new culture and learning from people around. And you mentioned Doug. I had Doug on the podcast a few months back, so a lot of my audience will know who he is. Fantastic leader and someone who's mentored both of us and been such a good friend and influence. And I'm interested because I know accountability has been a big theme that you've instilled in the team and in our relationship. And so I'm curious to hear a little bit about that. With you, why is accountability such a big piece of the team, and kind of how do you incorporate it?
I think all of us engage with the right intentions, right? So I know my personality. I'm an expressive individual. I get excited and I'm really keen to start projects. And if I have the right team in place, those projects will get executed, because I really believe I have better people in areas than what I am. And I think I'm not afraid of that, because I'm willing to grow and learn from that. But I do have my own ideologies. I have my own ideas. And I have my own goals that I want to achieve. So the accountability comes in to say, this is where I'm going. In order for me to get there, I have to have step 1 and step 2 in place. And now I've got to communicate where my weaknesses lie, to give you the permission to say, hey, Neville, that's not cutting it. And I think once I've given that permission to the people around me, I know I have earned the right to do the same. So accountability isn't one way; it's 2 ways. So I know that I can trust my team, and if it doesn't go the way I'm thinking it should, they got to trust me enough to tell them that, hey, I'm not happy with the outcome here. What can we do differently? In what ways can we get the result that's good for both of us? And I think that's something that we've got to be aligned to. And I think we communicated it early on in our team. And to be honest with you, we're 7 months in, but really I've been out of the country for 6 of those 7 months, right? So we're a month in. How I am as a person, 8,300 miles away in a different time zone is very different to how I am in person.
Right.
I'm in the same time zone now. So there's certain things that you could do when I was sleeping, but now we're awake at the same time of the day.
Right.
How do I work with you? How do I make sure that I'm communicating effectively so that the message is being received the way you want it to? And you cannot have that if you're not holding yourself accountable and your team doesn't trust you enough to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And it's a work in progress, Parker. It's not how I hold you accountable. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. And I love that. And you alluded to, which was my next question around trust there, because accountability is this two-way communication. It's you saying, hey, I want you to hold me accountable, but us also saying it to each other. And that starts that trust. How do we additionally build trust in those relationships?
Part of it is speaking your truth, right? So what is, one of our values is in our business, as you know, is accountability. But part of the underlying focus there is, when you speak your truth, it means I can tell you truthfully, and I'm coming from a position of care and a position of love. And if you know that my intention is for your best benefit, then it may be a bit stingy when I talk with you about that.
Right.
But you know that I'm coming from a position of love. And sometimes, because I'm so caring, I'm a bit harder than I should be. My words maybe aren't as calculated. And perhaps that sting is a bit worse than it could have been. And an example would be, if we're speaking to people we know really well, you may have less patience for him than a stranger, but it's because you love him. And your choice of words may be a little more harsher than the ones I'm using on this podcast. Sure. And the opposite is true. You may find that I'm a stranger to you. I may upset you the same way because you're trying to hold up appearances. You're going to use selective words.
Right. And
you're going to be kinder to me. Where strictly speaking, I'm nobody to you. So why are you kinder to me and not to that person who will jump in front of a bullet for you? Your brother would probably do way more for you than a stranger would. And I think that's where we got to come from a position of love. So I think in our team, we want to share. I'll give you a silly example. Years ago, I told Karen, when I first joined Dale Carnegie, that I'd come home for dinner. And I'd be home in time for dinner. And in fact, I'd come home and make dinner. And I remember running late, and I phoned her. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm running late. She says, no problem, just get home. It must have been not long after that, I did the same thing. I said, hey, Karen, listen, I'm going to be home early today. It's going to be great. I'll fix the girls from school. And then Karen said to me, Neville, don't make promises you can't keep. I said, because when you do that, we get excited. I don't prepare dinner. You say you'll come home early enough. I know that you will, but then you let me down anyway, and you let the family down. Now, to get that kind of feedback, it's hurtful. But Karen is holding me accountable.
Right.
I can now trust her because I know that she knows what my role as a leader in a business is. She also knows who I want to be as a dad, and certainly who I want to be as a husband. And she holds me to a higher standard because she has every right to do that. Now, I'd love to tell you that it's a perfect relationship. And I'm the perfect husband and the best father ever and stuff, but we have challenges. I upset my daughters, they upset me. We argue about things, but there's love in the home. And if you see us interact as a family, you'll see that there's love in the home, and there's caring, and there's mutual respect and trust, and there's accountability. And I think if that's in play, it's a lot easier for me to come to work and work the way I do. It's a lot easier for me to be truthful with my work colleagues because they'll be truthful with me. Because I'm going to a home that's a haven, and I'm coming to work, which is a place I want to be. And if you don't have trust and you don't have accountability in place, it's really challenging. And I mean, also Jonathan Vihal, who is was an MD and in our transition process, and still today is a sounding board to me, has incredible insight. And he put the BPR process in play in our business, a business process review meetings. And that allows us all to be accountable every second week. So you can't hide behind stuff. And if there's trust, we know things get done. So I don't know if it's a long-winded answer to your question, but that fundamentally is what's important.
And I love that. What was really resonating with me there was that idea of the long-term relationship. So why wouldn't we choose our words carefully with people who care the most about us and we care the most about them? To me, it's kind of that comfort thing, right? I just feel I take them for granted, or I feel comfortable around them, but sometimes to a fault almost. And so really realizing that, I'm being so nice and friendly and kind to this person I just met. And then when it comes to the most important relationships in my life, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. So thank you for that example, because that is 100%.
But Park, think about your friends. I know you're in a relationship at the moment, but think about your friendship circles, people that are in relationships. I think of my adult friends, but often you'll hang around friends and people speak ill of their significant other. How often have you heard a friend say about their girlfriend or partner saying, she drives me up the wall, man. She's irritating, or she's nagging, or he's so inconsiderate, and he's so selfish. I don't know you, but I don't want my spouse, partner, or significant other to talk about me like that.
Right.
I don't want my team to talk about Neville being someone that's inconsiderate or untruthful or whatever the case. So I'm 100% in control of that. And accountability and trust ensures that that is the case, that I'm held to that standard. And it's not that I'm perfect. It's when I fall, I trust you enough to hold me accountable.
Exactly.
So part of that is love. Say, hey, Nev, listen, you said X, Y, Z, but you're doing ABC. I'm seeing a misalignment here.
Right.
And please say it nicely, but say it.
Right.
Because if I unintentionally offend you and you don't tell me, I'm going to unintentionally offend you again. But if you tell me, I won't.
That's it. And it's about the trust and honesty to, instead of saying it to someone else, because I want to say it to someone, right? I need to say it, but either I'm going to say it to someone who can't do anything about it, or to you directly, which is where that is exactly ties in. I love that.
Exactly right. So I know I can, if you tell me, I can change it.
Right.
100%.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And we're so quick to not do that, even though exactly like the long-term versus short-term, like it makes sense when you think about it, but a lot of times, especially for young people, so this is a transition into, college students and high school students, but for young people, a lot of times we feel that conversation is very awkward, right? Especially to a peer, right? For young people. And so that's why, I see so much drama and interactions in young people, because the conversation with the person directly is so much harder and so much more uncomfortable than just, let me vent about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just peer to peer. Right. Even as adults, we have uncomfortable conversations peer to peer, right? So and I think it's even more challenging if it's a young person to their own parents, or their parents' friends, or a high school kid to, someone else's parent or friend, or something goes wrong, and I think that is even more awkward. So it's difficult enough when it's peer to peer.
Right.
But then there's some parent or some adult, some grown up, I don't know, boomer that's out there in the mall, in the shopping center, or at Harris Teeter or Wegmans or wherever it is, and they start saying stuff or throwing insults, or I don't know, whatever the case, and it's an awkward place to be.
Right.
How do you handle that situation?
Exactly.
And it's just as difficult. And again, if your position is trust and love, and my intentions are pure, well, then say your say in a way that's not offensive. I think sometimes that's when we get it wrong.
Right.
We want to, sometimes being kind is more important than being right.
That's a good one. That was a really good one. It's more important to be kind than to be right all the time. I think people get so focused on, I want to be right. I want to prove that I'm right, no matter what it takes, even if it was like, this is going to end the relationship, I'm going to be right. Right. And so and I struggle with that personally. I do, because I'm the type of person who's very assertive. I'm very confident in my opinion. And so, when you say that to me, I'm like, oh, you're right. You're right. I need to make sure I'm focused on that. Right.
Or at least you're honest. Right?
Well, that's the thing, is I have to know up front, and in relationships with friends, or, I have to be very conscious of how that comes across, is even if I'm like, I'm right, you're wrong. Like, it's just, it will take a toll on the relationship if you carry on like that.
And our personalities are defined by that. So I'm not that person. So I'm different to you.
Right.
So, and my wife and my second born child, they're like that. Chloe and Karen, it's black and white. And it's a strength. Without a doubt, it's a strength. So it's also our personalities. And this is also what's important about being effective in life, right? And making life a great place to be and easier to we can travel on the journey of life it's a lot easier to travel on it if we are self-aware and we understand who we are as individuals. And I think part of what we do is we sometimes hide who we are. And what we should do is allow that light to shine. I think one of the things that Dale Carnegie is really good at in our organization is we look at the individual and get them to realize who they are and unlock that person. So how do you see yourself when you're alone in the room and you've got this imagination of how you're going to do a job interview? You know, walk in there with this confident stride and you're going to walk and you're going to be dressed. And that we call that inner confidence. Okay. Because you're alone. You can say what you like. You can stand how you want. You can dress the way we want. So that's inner confidence. But how do you portray that inner confidence externally when it matters? And that's what we need to do. So when you're interviewing and you're practicing with your mom and dad, maybe, or your uncle or your brother, sister, how are you practicing? Are you practicing in your mind, or are you actually speaking it out? And speak it out because you want the words to flow. We want to be sure that we're practicing the linguistics of it. And the reason why is because we speak in 140 words a minute, but we're thinking like 800 to 1,000. So we're processing it 1,000 words a minute, let's say. But now when we're speaking, we go, because it's not because you're having a problem, it's because your brain processing and your tongue hasn't had the chance to practice the flow. That's why I asked you, my pace is something I work on all the time, right? Especially in America, where I have an accent and I want to be sure that I'm communicating effectively because I speak multiple languages. Well, 2 anyway, I'm bilingual. So I might process a bit differently. I don't go to 160 words, maybe 120. Right. But man, I think a lot faster than that. That's why I want to get that. And that's what I think, that's what gives us joy in this profession that we're in, you know, helping people unlock their potential.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful place to be.
Well, and I love catching little tidbits like that, thinking in 1,000 words per minute versus how fast we speak. Little things like that are very practical things for people listening. You know,
absolutely.
That idea of, hey, you know, a very common one is a lot of people talk about thinking in the shower. You know, I'm standing in the shower and I'm thinking about this argument that I'm going to have or this point that I want to make. And then the first time I actually say it, I'm stuttering, right? And I've had that happen, you know, I think so. So just thinking about that, hey, I want to have this conversation. I want to talk it out with someone. They can actually give me feedback. It's not just me having this perfect scenario in my head, super concrete.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you're having that conversation, I think when you're thinking the process through in the shower, you got to ask yourself 3 questions. Is it kind? Is it the truth? And is it necessary? And what we mean by that is because it's difficult to have those conversations when you disagree with someone or when you maybe trying to address a conflict. I'm not sure what the scenario is, but you want to go and address something. So is it kind? When we say is it kind, what we mean there is what you're sharing going to grow the person? Is it going to help them? You know, the captain of the football team maybe is calling plays that aren't the best interest of the whole team, right? So is it kind to tell him that? Absolutely, because you're going to help him be a better football player. Is it the truth? In other words, are you making this up because you're not getting the ball enough? Are you making this up? Or do you have evidence? Say, well, listen, the last 2 games, but what is the evidence you have? Then is it necessary? In other words, will it have an intended outcome that the other person is going to grow? And if we say yes to those 3 things, kind, truth, and necessary, well, then we can handle the conflict. And earlier we said sometimes it's better to be kind than to be correct. So if the first 2 are yes and the third one's no, what is it necessary? Well, then leave it. You know, sometimes, and I think for parents as well, I think we do this youth program, as you know. Right. Sometimes parents choose to fight the wrong battles. So your daughter colored her hair. You know, she's not going out drinking on the weekends, right? Is that the battle you want to fight now? You know, or maybe that's a bad example in this market, but you know, so maybe they leave the house a bit untidy. Maybe the shirt's not tucked in. I'm not too sure. Sure. You know, maybe they're not as well groomed as you'd like them to be as a parent. I know sometimes that's my challenge. But you know, are they respectful? Are they compassionate? You know, are they getting the grades that you want them to get? Are they choosing good friends? Right. Or maybe we can let their dress slide a little bit. Right. As an example, in this occasion. Now, if you're going to a formal do with a restaurant, then sure, dress smart. Right. But every young adult, everyone I know knows when to dress appropriately. I love that. So I think those are little things. So the kind, truth, and necessary is vital here. So what is it necessary? If it's not, then leave it, man.
I love that.
Yeah.
For young people, 16 to 22 listening.
Yeah.
I get in a disagreement with a teacher, a parent, an authority figure.
Yeah.
What's the approach? I know that you talk about this a lot within a parenting, within within a student role. What are your initial thoughts for me as a student or as someone who has someone in authority over me?
So I think there's sometimes a misperception that the younger generation are disrespectful. They feel entitled. I think there's definitely surveys and research that shows that might be the case. And I think it was it Simon Sinek? I saw one of his interviews, or he was interviewed. He was saying, we got this generation that's spoiled, etc., etc. So I think sometimes when there's a disagreement of sorts, or there is this situation where you want to have this disagreement, we've got to put into perspective the other person's view. And what we mean by that is understand that possibly they're looking through filtered glasses. And there's a perception there. Now we have an opportunity here to prove them wrong or prove them right. And if you're going with the attitude of, let me prove you wrong, that your perception of me is incorrect, then that's an attitude that allows them to see your generation in a different light.
Right.
And I think if you have that as an attitude and you apply that kind of truth and necessary, then I think you're going to be fine. The key, though, is to start with your evidence, right? To start with the situation. Don't start with your opinion. So, for example, if you were to come to me and say, you old people are
right,
so inconsiderate, and you always you've given your opinion first. What's going to happen is I'm not going to listen to the rest of your evidence.
Right.
But if you were to come and say, you old people, my ears go off. But if you say, one of the things that I noticed was, and you start with the evidence, I'm going to listen to your evidence. And then you can say, so that's why you old people frustrate us youngsters.
Right.
Now, I've listened to your whole, can I put an argument or point?
Sure.
Before your opinion. Now your opinion can be said. It allows me to listen to your view. Whereas if you start with the opinion and I disagree, I ain't listening to your evidence, man. I'm not listening to the stuff you want to add to the back of that. So that would be my suggestion.
I love that.
But it's simple, not easy.
Agree. And I think that the approach to those conversations is often emotion in the moment.
Oh, absolutely.
That's it, right? And emotion breeds opinion. If I feel upset, then I'm going to say an opinion of how I feel, or some generalized thing, versus actually thinking through, why did that make me feel that way, or what was that thing that set it off?
It goes to having that learning and growing mindset. People talk about a growth mindset.
Right.
And if you look at critical skills for the future, right, collaboration is one of them. How do you collaborate? And if we don't have a growth mindset, and we're not open to mentoring and being coached through feedback,
right, that
is maybe true but hurtful from a position of love, we won't develop our collaboration skills. And that's what's vital for us. We've got to make sure that we have that. So part of, as we develop ourselves through university and as we develop our academic skill and prowess, there's a lot of focus on life skills and being emotionally aware and socially aware. And the reason for that is because we need to collaborate. We need to understand how people are, who they are. And if you see them for who they are, we can influence them.
Right.
And we can influence them because we have like-minded people. I just wrote now about, there's 3 things we have to remember when it comes to relationships. I'll put on my blog probably this week. And the one is, there are relationships we have to start, relationships we have to nurture, and relationships we have to end. And I think sometimes the mistake we make is we think we have to be friendly with everybody, but we don't. Can I contribute positively to your growth, Parker?
Absolutely.
And that's why I want you here. But if I don't contribute positively to your growth,
right,
well, then I don't know if I want you here. I definitely can learn from you. But if it's just one-sided, if I'm only sapping you for all that you have, well, then it's to your detriment, not to mine. That's not a symbiotic relationship. So we have to be strong enough to identify, do I want to start, nurture, or terminate? And I think sometimes young adults and young people don't realize that you can actually terminate a relationship. We've got this peer pressure thing that's happening. Oh, by the way, it doesn't go away when you get older. Oh, it doesn't go away when you get older. It doesn't go away when you get older. The peer pressure is always there. How am I going to fit in? Do I have to go to the office after party? Oh, so no one brings their girlfriend with, so I won't bring mine. Or no, what are your values? Make those decisions based on your values and decide. That's not a value that I buy into. And then make the decision. So I like this. I like Doug. Doug's a great guy. I don't want to get along with the guy. You know, I do. Yeah. But if I don't add value to him and he doesn't add value to me, right, we can just be buddies. We're not going to be close, right, intimate friends, if that makes sense. And that's 100% in Doug's control. It's 100% in my control, just like it's 100% in your control. If it's worth your while, start it. If it's a relationship that's important to you, you've met this person at work and you can work well as a team, well, then nurture it. Make the effort. Don't wait for them to start. Go ahead and do it. They will reciprocate. And I think the most difficult one, sometimes we've got to end a relationship with someone that's just not good for us. And sometimes it's an obvious thing. It's a person that's just toxic. Right. But sometimes it's more subtle than that. Are you in a relationship, for example, where when you're around your friends, this person is always putting you down? Are they trying to put you in a bad light in their company? Right. How are you being introduced in a business environment? When you're interning at a place, do they talk about you well? Or are they condescending? And if they're condescending, must you nurture it so that they're no longer that because you value them? Or must you terminate that and don't extend your internship? We are 100% in control of those decisions. That is something that I think if we did more often, we'd have more valuable relationships.
I love that. And that's very concrete. That exercise of looking at relationships, the start, nurture, end is fascinating. And it's something that I talk to my group about a lot, that idea of the two-way growth, because that idea where the best relationships are where I'm going to learn from you, you're going to learn from me, and we're going to constantly be able to move up together. Absolutely. Because otherwise, like you said, they can be a friend or that, whatever, but those close friends are the people who are pushing you, holding you accountable, the people that you trust, right? All of these things tie right back together.
And the beauty of it is, how often do you read about people that are successful and the minute they fail, they disappear? Why? Because when they were climbing that ladder, they were stepping on toes and climbing on people's heads, and they weren't growing the people around them. But if we grow people around us on that ladder of success, the minute we slip, they're going to catch us. Say, hey, Neville, or, hey, Parker, we're going to keep you up there, but we like you up there.
Right.
And some people are great 2IC. Others are great leaders. I'm not the best at my trade. I want better people in certain positions in the business.
Right.
And I think once we understand that, what is it that we need? Then it's like a puzzle piece.
Yes.
We select our friends always. But there are key relationships that we start, nurture, or end. And then apply the everyday principles of being nice, having social etiquette, and being kind, and all those things. We do that. But I don't want to be everybody's friend. I want to be liked by everybody. That's important to me. But if you don't like me back, I'm okay with that. Because I'll make the decision if I want to end it, nurture it, or start it.
I love it. So in closing, I want to share a little bit more about this Generation Next program, because I'm involved with it. I'm excited about it. And for my North Carolina based listeners, this is hugely relevant. So tell us a little bit about this. It's been super successful in South Africa. And who's going to benefit from it? What are the types of people that you think are going to really thrive in that type of environment?
I think let's put a scenario in play first. So if we think about how we are in social settings.
Perfect.
Have you ever left a place wishing you didn't say that? Ever ended a conversation going, can't believe I did that, or said that? Or maybe you've gone away from a weekend, or you've been out with friends at varsity college at a party of some sort, and think to yourself, I can't believe I said that. Or what was I thinking? Why did I do that?
Right.
And what the Generation Next program does it allows that to happen less. It doesn't not happen, but it happens less. What it also does is allows us to be in an environment where we learn from other people, not from the facilitators,
Right.
from peers around how is life impacting them. And here's what we learn, that we're all in the same boat. Well, we're in the same storm, maybe different boats, right? But the experiences that we're having, we relate to all the way. And here's what it does for us. It allows us to have, number one, more meaningful dialogue and conversation.
Right.
With our parents, siblings, and with people that we play sport with, or our peers at school. It also allows us to put life in perspective. Despite what you think, life doesn't get easier as we grow. It becomes more challenging. So you're in the prime of your lives now.
Right.
At high school, 11th, 12th grade, and into college, and man, it is the prime. As stressful as what it is now, right, and as horrible as what COVID is, you're in your prime. And as you develop our careers and grow, etc., it's going to become more stressful. We're going to fall in love again and again, maybe, or with the same person again and again, and you're going to have a family if that's our choice. It does create certain challenges for us. So what are those critical skills that you need to be effective? So what the Generation X program really does, the World Economic Forum funded a study, and they focus on what are the critical skills that are needed. We spoke about collaboration being one.
Right.
Now we know that artificial intelligence machine learning is massive, AI. But who's going to run a team, mentor, guide, and communicate, and persuade, be persuasive? Who's going to do that? That is a skill that is vital. Because we still got to lead teams, and as much as what machines can do, the analytics, they can't make the decision. So creative thinking, decision making, those are vital. And this allows us to do that. And the other thing that it does really well is it allows us to have a goal, a vision, and objective, and make intentional decisions on a daily basis to be impactful. And that's why I'm excited about it. I'm just excited because we see people every day in our adult program saying, I wish I did this program sooner. And that's what sparked the Generation X program in South Africa.
And we're about to bring it to North Carolina.
Excited, man. And excited to have you part of that project. So
it's exciting.
Really excited, yeah.
Well, and everyone listening, anyone who's been listening to the podcast and hearing what I've been up to knows that something I'm incredibly passionate about is the idea of learning alongside other people and learning from other people. And so I'm doing the ECHR class through Dale Carnegie right now, which is the Effective Communication and Human Relations course. And essentially this version, which is Generation Next, is catered towards college students, people who are having those different things going on, the related issues. And so I'm excited because I see so much of what we're talking about in every single one of my peers, whether it's communication or whether it's leadership or whether it's interaction and confidence and all of these different things. So I'm excited about it. If you're interested, reach out to me directly because I am a prime contact for that program, but it's also starting in March. So if you're listening to this before the beginning of March, we're going to have our pilot program for it. And we're looking for, innovators, people who are interested in being on the forefront of it to just take part of it. And it's going to happen throughout the year. So yes, excited to have you be a part of that. Where can people find more of you? You mentioned your blog, where can people connect with you?
I have a website, NevilleDelucia.com.
There it is.
That you can go there, and that'll link through my other social media as well. And of course, Dale Carnegie is a good place to go there too. But
perfect.
NevilleDelucia.com. It'll be great to interact, and it's great being with you.
Absolutely great having you. And I was going to say, definitely check out, NevilleDelucia.com. And if you're interested in more Dale Carnegie, the Generation Next program, I'll link it all in the description. So if you're listening or watching on YouTube, you'll be able to go to the description and check out his website and everything that we've got going on. So, appreciate everybody listening today. This was it was fun. I just enjoy your energy.
Well, I appreciate that
so just a great time, great conversation, tons of takeaways, and hope you all enjoyed it. And we'll see you again next week for another episode.
Thanks for listening to the Taking a Breath podcast with Parker Mayes.